With the rise of the global economy, economic disparities are also on the rise. For every 100 millionaire CEOs and business owners, we have a billionaire business tycoon to prove that the disparity between the rich and the ultra-rich has been on the rise. The best case study of this phenomenon can be found in the automotive industry, which has started catering to this rising crowd of ultra-rich. Lately, the grounds of Geneva Motor Show and Concours d'Elegance have been overflowing with super expensive, limited production vehicles to cater to the rising set of clientele that needs something way more special than your regular crop of Ferraris, Bentleys, and Porsches to stand out from the hoi polloi of car collectors. So here's a comprehensive guide to the most expensive modern automotive icons that make your regular crop of supercars look like economy cars. The LaFerrari, as the name suggests, is Ferrari's halo car. The V12 hybrid powertrain celebrates the Italian marque's glorious past and also shows their future as we near the end of the internal combustion era. If you plan to acquire one now, expect to pay between $5 million and $10 million at an auction block. The Ferrari LaFerrari is perhaps one of the most significant cars of this century. This statement does not stem from the fact that it's already secured its title as the most expensive 21st century car to have ever been sold at an auction. Perhaps the main reason for its significance is that this Italian hypercar single-handedly represents the best of our glorious automotive past and combines it with the futuristic tech that will represent the next chapter in personal mobility. To reiterate the last statement, this is achieved by combining one of the most powerful V12 engines ever made with an electric motor and battery pack. This hybrid arrangement showcases the best of Ferrari's racing pedigree while proving that past and present can live together in perfect harmony. This Ferrari Enzo successor had to be in every fathomable way at least a modest leap forward from its predecessor, and that was a tall order. But the LaFerrari is a technological marvel and the party piece, its hybrid powertrain. Powering the Ferrari LaFerrari is a naturally aspirated 6.3-liter V12 similar to those found in the F12 and 812 Superfast. In this case, it produces a total of 789 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. It is, however, paired with a 161 horsepower electric motor and 2.2 kWh battery pack, which brings total system output up to 950 horsepower. Unlike other hybrid systems, however, this system's sole purpose is to assist the V12 by filling in the torque gaps. And there are no flimsy cables to charge the battery pack. This is no Prius after all, since the LaFerrari features regenerative braking only. You must drive the car to recharge the battery. The result of all this cutting-edge hybrid wizardry is that once you get behind the wheel of a LaFerrari, the hybrid system just disappears in the background. And what you are left with is a hypercar that feels extremely natural in the way it serves up power. And the icing on top has to be that unadulterated V12 soundtrack. As a result, the power figures are simply meaningless and the subsequent experience is extremely organic and simply unmatched in an era that is obsessed with forced induction and complicated electronics. But what's perhaps even more impressive is how usable this car is on your way to the track. Especially compared to the likes of its predecessors, the F40 and Enzo. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission handles slow speeds remarkably well and feels just as usable as a Ferrari 458 or a California. It's all these factors that have drawn the attention of collectors the world over. This is probably the first and the last naturally aspirated V12-powered hybrid hypercar, making it a crucial chapter in the history of automobiles. Speaking of collectors, when new, the LaFerrari was priced at a cool $1.5 million depending on options and specs and Ferrari only. sold them to hardcore Ferrari loyalists and collectors. Which famously led to the controversial unveiling of the car, where Ferrari casually mentioned that all the 499 units had already been sold. More people with Swiss bank accounts wanted to get their hands on one, and as a result, Ferrari unveiled the Ferrari Aperta, a topless version of the supercar with two major changes. The first and most obvious change was the retractable top. The second, however, was the $2.2 million price tag. To make things even more interesting, Ferrari capped production of the Aperta to just 210 units, of which only 200 were sold to customers. 9 of the remaining 10 were reserved for Ferrari's 70th anniversary celebration. And the final car was auctioned off with proceeds going to charity. Speaking of auctions, if you plan to get your hands on perhaps one of the most significant modern Ferraris, the prices have reached record highs and they only seem to be going up. Ferrari coupes have been fetching over $5 million at auction, and a recent example sold by Room Sotheby's as a charitable gesture towards the Italian earthquake recovery efforts fetched a record $7 million. That figure made it, according to the esteemed auction house, the most valuable 21st century automobile ever sold at auction. But that record did not stand for long after a Ferrari Aperta reportedly fetched $9.5 million, cementing the car's reputation as one of the most iconic and valuable hypercars of this century. Pagani has been redefining automotive obsession for over 2 decades. And the Wiry range is their current flagbearer, which, in its numerous iterations, has pushed the envelope of performance and craftsmanship. Horacio Pagani is the man behind the visionary brand that has made its way into automotive history. Books. His first attempt at Pagani Automobili S.P.A. was the Zonda, a critically acclaimed success story. And after a decade of making and perfecting the Zonda, he gave us the successor to this iconic hypercar in the form of the new Pagani Wiry. This all-new Pagani hypercar, just like its predecessor, was first and foremost designed to be a piece of kinetic art, sculpted out of the most exotic materials to have ever been associated with automobiles. But it was also a car that was just as satisfying to drive as it was to look at. And if you have seen a Pagani in a poster or been fortunate enough to be in the presence of one, you know that's as high as praises get. The Wiry makes this exclusive list for several different reasons. Like any number of exorbitantly overpriced luxury items dripping in exclusivity, the Wiry is only understood by those who appreciate art and fine craftsmanship, but can only be enjoyed by people who possess these abilities as well as deep pockets, really deep pockets at that. This is why it earns its place in the world's most expensive cars list. Adding to its exclusivity is its rarefied production run, which sits at 100 units ever produced. Even more exclusive models followed the original with even smaller production numbers. The Wiry is not just an automobile. It's one man and his legacy. Which is why it would be criminal to talk about the original and leave all the other special editions out of the equation. The original Pagani Wiry was introduced to the world in 2011 at the Pirelli headquarters in Milan. The Wiry, just like its successor, was a harmonious amalgamation of German engineering and Italian design. Powering the first and all the other iterations of this hypercar was a 6.0-liter twin-turbo, AMG-sourced V12, made to order by Mercedes exclusively for the Wiry. This might sound like a downgrade from the 7.3-liter naturally aspirated Mercedes AMG V12 that powered the original Zonda and was known for its thunderous exhaust note. But those who have experienced the Wiry will be able to testify that it's probably one of the best forced induction-powered production vehicle to have blessed this sweet earth. The Pagani Wiry is a hypercar that has way more to its existence than raw performance and Headline figures. But for those who love numbers. The Wiry in its original iteration puts out 730 horsepower and 738 pound-feet of torque. The wind-slicing bodywork combined with its lightweight construction, courtesy of extensive amounts of carbon fiber and titanium to keep the overall weight at bay, lends the Wiry the ability to easily breach the 200 mph barrier with an eye-watering top speed of 230 miles per hour. The interior, just like the rest of this hypercar, is best described as a bespoke art piece, which is in most cases tailored to fit the client's needs and, more importantly, expensive taste. The Pagani Wiry stays true to the glorious albeit short-lived Pagani legacy and led to numerous special editions for its extremely exclusive clientele, and each edition with a price tag more eye-watering than the last. This exclusive list includes the Wiry BC, a follow-up to the original with more power, more exclusivity, just 20 units produced, and is accompanied by an unattainable price tag of $2.55 million. The roadster versions of both the original Wiry and the BC cost almost $1 million more than their coupe counterparts. The latest and greatest Wiry to join this exposé club is the Wiry R, which is a track-only beast that carries a $3.1 million price tag. A bargain considering some of the other track toys we have on our list. And it's made even more special thanks to the fact that only 30 will ever be made. The Ferrari Monza SP1 and SP2 are the first models in the Italian Automarque's latest Icona series, inspired by the race-winning 750 and 860 Monza from the 1950s. The Monza series will be limited to just 499 units and carry a base price of $1,800,000. Under the reign of old man Enzo himself, Ferrari was the purest expression of racing and performance motoring. The man got into the road car business just to fund his passion for racing. That was Ferrari's obsession, and it turned the prancing horse into automotive royalty. Sadly, that Ferrari is long gone, and just like any other automaker, Ferrari is making cars primarily to stay in business. This has led to a set of cars that have diluted the brand's essence by introducing forced induction and hybridization, amongst other things. This does make them fast but with a lot less emotion, and what's an Italian car without emotion? But even Ferrari is entitled to vice. And they achieve that by creating limited-run masterpieces that also happen to be some of the most expensive cars in the world. The latest to join this elite bandwagon are the Ferrari Monza twins, utilizing perhaps the best production Ferrari of the decade, the 812 Superfast as a base. The Ferrari Monza is a barchetta, which is Italian for no windscreen, and is part of Ferrari's latest Icona series that sits at the very top of Ferrari's existing lineup. But the fact that it takes inspiration from iconic Ferrari race cars from the 50s doesn't mean that it's a relic wrapped in modern skin. The Monza is a technological marvel powered by the most powerful production naturally aspirated motor. The 6.5-liter high-revving V12 delivers 799 horsepower and 530 pound-feet of torque, which allow it to hit 60 miles per hour in 2.9 seconds and has a face-melting top speed of 188 miles per hour. It also gets plenty of modern creature comforts, including radio, the option to add Apple CarPlay, and a clever virtual windscreen system. The latter has vents on the hood to channel air into a chamber that compresses the air and forces it out of a slit just in front of the dash. The mechanical nature of the system implies the faster you go, the lower the turbulence. The Ferrari Monza is available in 2 flavors. If you are one of those who enjoys solo blasts across a mountain pass or on a track day, then the Monza SP1 is the car for. The SP1 here denotes that it's a single-seater. But if you prefer to woo a passenger while you take you super rare multi-million-dollar Ferrari, then the SP2 is the solution. But this isn't just a matter of removing a panel and putting in a seat. The two versions have significant engineering differences. The SP1 gets an oval-shaped capsule that houses the seat, pedals, and the rest of the instrumentation and is isolated from the rest of the car. In addition, the SP1 has a single cowl to protect the driver from rollovers. The SP2 on the other hand gets rid of the cover and fits a seat right onto the monocoque and adds a second cowl to protect the passenger. As a result, the SP1 weighs 44 pounds less than the twin-seater SP2. But unfortunately, due to U.S. legislation, this beautiful Ferrari Barchetta isn't road legal in the U.S. Even if you could afford the $1,800,000 price tag and with a production run limited to just 500 units or less, many of which will sadly spend the days in a heated garage. The Ferrari Monza is destined to be a unicorn.